The W. Her new life, the early August dawn. I want to rant, but I'm not sure what I'm looking for here. I'll also take any advice that is given. A brief history before we get started. I've been married to W for about 20 years. Our 20th anniversary is actually this coming week, and our children are all teenagers. 19, 17, 13. We've had highs and lows. Regretfully, we couldn't agree on the ups versus downs ratio. I felt that we had a terrific time together. Not so much her. W had to spend almost 7 months away of town back in January, pertaining to work. Even though neither of us was excited about being apart, we reasoned that it would be acceptable because we had already dealt with it. I had to spend several months at a time, 6 months or longer, away from the family. We communicated often while I was away, and I made sure to arrange for her to have time to phone and unwind in the morning and evening. With the W and me, this was typical. We enjoyed having conversations. We would exchange so many messages and calls that our cell phone bill would be absurd, even if one of us took a little trip out of town. I assumed everything would be all right because of our past. Things went well for the first 3 weeks after W left in early January. But as she established herself in her new social group, I saw a shift in her attitude. Our talks lasted no more than 30 to 60 seconds because she would now only phone me as she was leaving. She would find something else to do if I phoned. Once, for instance, someone happened to walk by her office door. Thus, she had to go try to be of assistance to them. Later, if I phoned her, she would get really agitated and would frequently start a fight to get me to stop talking. She also cut off her parents, siblings, children, and other family members during this same time. It goes without saying that things grew worse. She started criticizing me, accusing me of being envious since I was sad at home with the kids while she was having fun. We barely talk when you're away was the beginning of the relationship revisionism. She also informed me, and she had no intention of sitting in a room and pining for Hal. Transcription: as you are aware, I detest making phone calls. As a result, she ensured that every discussion turned into a dispute. Sadly, our children were also aware of this because she would sporadically blow up at me during a Skype conversation. Not to mention that you lied to me about the money, would take money out of the account and fabricate stories about where she was going, when she was really attending parties, the bar, and other inappropriate places. I've confided in my mother and a close friend, as well as seen 2 different counselors, and they all ask the same question. Have you given any thought to the potential that W is cheating? Have I given it any thought? Hello. One instance where I called W is what I failed to disclose to them. I got to hear her having sex with someone since she answered the phone rather than pressing the ignore option. I thought, surely this is a bad connection, and gave it another ring. She must have had it right by her because the phone answered on its own. She's still at it, too. I keep calling back, hoping to grab her attention, but to no avail. While pounding the keyboard and calling her name this time, they pay attention to me. A guy asks, "What's that noise?" And I hear her respond, "What noise?" Oh my goodness, hang up the phone. Naturally, she is denying everything. I was hearing her say that she was texting text while in the automobile. She stated no to my request to share screenshots of the text exchange with the timestamps attached. Because I shouldn't have to ... you should just believe me, she responded. Anyway, after almost 20 years together, I made the decision to evaluate if the marriage was still worthwhile. Then a vicious cycle started in which I gave up everything of my dignity in an attempt to keep my marriage intact. W continued to treat me badly in the interim. I find it unbelievable that in all the time we spent together, I was unaware of this aspect of her that was lurking beneath the surface. A few weeks ago, we visited individual bank accounts and she nearly put us in the red by taking money out of the account. I have consistently demanded that she participate in our monthly budgeting process, even though I usually had to kick and shout my way to get her to go along. We would set away that much every time I asked her how much she needed for this payday. This is the part where I have to stress something. I've never been one to point out possibilities to W since we are equal partners. We ought to agree on how our finances are managed. In any case, W would spend all of her money and begin to deplete other budget categories. Food items, sandwiches in school, utilities. W informed me that other people are spending far more money when I called her out on it the last time and she lied about it. It's definitely time for you to get off my back. She then told me that she would spend as much money as she wanted, whenever she wanted to. I told her it was time to divide the money at that point. Regretfully, she desired to divide all joint accounts, including our brokerage accounts. We agreed when we signed that the division would be used to divide the property and the liquid assets during the divorce. Let's see if it continues. We'll see if she's crying poor when she returns, but I'm guessing she's spending like a drunken sailor while on shore leave. She quickly transfers enough money through a holding account to assist in running the home, and she frequently sends more money than we require, though I only keep what is necessary to run the house. So I will give her credit for that. She is unaware that I have deposited the surplus into her local savings account. I'm going to speak with a lawyer I've been in contact with since I anticipate a nasty custody dispute for S13 to be developing. We'll see. I might have to give in on certain things because I'm not going to allow him to be a pawn in her scheme. till he gets to choose where he wants to reside in the upcoming year. I've emptied the bedroom and common spaces of all her stuff, cleaned it, and stored it in the garage. I hope all the animals will just leave her belongings alone. I'm not really worried about it, though. It may be a bit late, but I'm taking a 180 on this. Well, not for her, as I mentioned earlier. I'm not interested in our dating W. The mere idea of her repulses me. She simply needs to leave my life. She had a great time thoroughly abusing me, and the reason for this 180 is that I have been falling into her mental traps. Yes, I was the one who invited the abuse, but it's a fresh day today. I can now clearly see what my STBX is. I'm actually able to get going. Even though my siblings are resilient, they're not handling it well. I let them know that I'm available for a conversation, and most of the time they accept my invitation. I try to address as many queries as I can, excluding some of the more graphic information. Of course, they've made a few attempts to speak with W, but each time, she gets irrationally angry and won't listen to them. Still, I make an effort to prevent them from being really enraged with her while she's gone. Even though I hate her, I have the right to end our relationship legally. Our children seem to be in a rut. However, when W gets back, it will be up to her to mend their relationship. I refuse to take part in that. Comment: since she's gone, she's still living in a fantasy world. You will witness a whole new person once she returns home and acknowledges the extent of the harm she is causing. She won't be pleading for another opportunity, but I'm sure she'll be blaming you for pressuring her to do so. Continue on regardless of what transpires. It is never right for someone to be so deceitful. It is her problem if she was thinking about her family and marriage when she was out. Pay attention to yourself and the children, and begin putting personal belongings away so she can't take them with her when she returns to town. She doesn't respect you at all. This divorce will not change the way she has treated you. There is no chance of success with mediation. The only way you can reclaim your life and put an end to this garbage is through litigation. As the opus says, I concur with everything. She has since changed her mind about the mediation, even though she was previously open to it and a speedy resolution. My instinct tells me that her is giving her advice on how to handle this, especially when, as of 4 weeks ago, she was more than happy to let S13 stay with me, and it appears that now she wants to fight me for primary custody of him. In any case, I'm prepared for her to inflict harm. I'll be that much closer to finishing my relationship with her once it starts. She'll return in the upcoming 2 months. It wasn't a good day. Even though I'm furious, I really want to escape W. I spent the entire day missing her. These days will come, I know that, but it still stinks. I'm going to try to decompress by going for a run. The children still regrettably believe in miracles and are filled with rage and sadness. They are not yet open to receiving counseling. Luckily, though, they are speaking with me. I intend to gently lead them toward me. See, I hate that this divorce will probably end badly. If she had just taken her money, everything would have been so much simpler. Her belongings, feeling liberated, go through the door. We could have settled on an equitable parenting plan and led rather sedate lives. Unfortunately, she's attempting to make this a win-lose situation. She's unaware that none of us come out on top. The 2 elder ones discovered it by chance. W was being violent and berating me for telling the kids what was going on when I spoke with her the other day. My mom and I were getting divorced. She advised me to just tell them lies until she got back so I wouldn't be in charge of the narrative. After informing my children for months that parents do occasionally drift apart. Moreover, Mom is not the villain. On W, I snapped. I urged her to screw her guy and threw the infidelity at her. Sadly, I was unaware that my children were standing behind me. I regret how they found out, not that I'm angry that they know. Sadly, an hour later, D approached me and remarked that W's actions now made sense. In practice, however, things were not quite so clear-cut. I began to justify the circumstances and put the blame on myself for pushing her away. At last, I regained my composure and assigned the responsibility appropriately on the woman, just discussing how effortlessly she dismissed our marriages and chased away the nostalgia and sense of missing her, though, is fantastic. It reminds me why our marriage did not work out. She is refusing to answer my emails concerning the children more and more. It's an attempt at dominance. I try to lessen that by having the kids get in touch with her directly. She occasionally takes days to reply, which only serves to confirm the current perceptions the children have of her. It's our 20th anniversary today. It'll serve as a good reminder of the deception I've been leading. Her lack of respect for me is one of the recurring themes I can remember from the past, but I never imagined her getting this nasty. To be honest, I have forgotten who she used to be. I was starting to lose myself in the bitterness and rage that followed my marriage dissolution. I needed a few days to collect myself and think things through thoroughly. I joined the Life After Divorce forums as a lurker to observe how others were handling the opposite situation while I was doing this. I've learned to accept a few harsh realities. First and foremost, there was absolutely nothing I could have done to stop W from dislodging himself from our marriage. She made the decision. Second, I can't devote my time and efforts to forming a bond with someone who only cares about their own self-serving, short-term desires. Finally, life isn't fair. That is to say, just because I put a lot of effort into being a good age, doesn't indicate that you will too. That's the way things are. What should I do next, then? To be really honest, I have a lot of hope for the future. Despite the end of the life that W and I created together, there are many reasons to be happy about the past and future. I shall keep our time together in my files and periodically look back on the wonderful recollections I have of it. Simultaneously, I will recall how she deceived me and abandoned our union when it was advantageous. I shall treasure that memories as a constant reminder that life can be awful at times. All you had to do was get back up and carry on. I will just think back to the phone call where I got to hear her having fun with the if I ever feel weak. I'm excited about the divorce and the chance to rebuild my life any way I see fit. I'm a late 30s guy who is still young. I believe that I have a decent appearance. I have fantastic professional opportunities and a bright future ahead of me. I believe I should be all right. I know that reconciliation is not even a remote possibility as her homecoming approaches, and that is a decision I must make. I recently spoke with W and got the chance to see how much I've grown in these few short weeks. She invited me to go on an out-of-town adventure that she and the kids were organizing. Without even the tiniest hesitation, I declined respectfully. That is a big step forward in my opinion. My voice was devoid of any resentment, hatred, or hostility. I was just unwilling to depart. I am not claiming a miraculous recovery, please understand. I totally anticipate having both fantastic and horrifying days. But I don't fear starting fresh now. Though it might be a bit early, I believe I'm prepared to go to the LAD forums. We appreciate all of the time taken to reply. Thank you so much for being so open and concerned. PSW appears to be reversing course on the divisive divorce front. She says she will accept my proposed divorce settlement and that she is confident I will act fairly. Nice, but just in case, I'll keep the attorney on rapid dial. It stinks that I've seen her actual self. Nonetheless, I firmly believe that as long as she holds emotional significance in my life, the betrayal will cause pain. I will be able to look back on this and instead of dwelling on the hurt, realize how lucky I was to be given another chance at life and sanitize our relationship. I believe I disrupted the STBX and the when I was speaking with her about an issue with one of our children. In any case, she was rude, and I foolishly questioned her why she was upset with me because it was she who had let me down. I took 2 steps forward and 1 back in anger after that. Positively, I am no longer concealing her affair. I told both her and my families. I'm attempting to locate the relatives. Though I'm not positive, I believe I know who it is. I'm furious now that I've dealt with the STBX today. After a few days, she turned from a somewhat normal person to an unreasonable jerk. My instinct tells me that the must have left and then returned. Positively, these idiots uploaded a photo on W's Facebook page. If someone didn't know, they wouldn't give it much thought. However, her relatives contacted me to inquire as to why W is cuddling with that strange man, as they knew that W only permitted our children or myself to be in her close vicinity. Even so, it defies every guideline for handling divorce. I wrote her a long email outlining my plans for her travels and what to do with the horse when she arrived. In the long term, it won't help, so screw it. When this is finished, I will feel so relieved. Things between the W and I have calmed down after a month. She is now a lot more cooperative with the D, and there is very little confrontation. As a matter of fact, it has been weeks since we exchanged an angry word. This is an important achievement since we've been asking each other how the other is doing during our discussions. We are not holding up so well. For the record, I can't seem to turn off the compassion button for her or for me, even though my narrative irritates me. But the emotions are really, really bad. Anger over what transpired, anguish over the dreams dashed, future hope, then sadness about what lies ahead without her. The wheel keeps turning as rage strikes again. I caught myself questioning if this was truly what I wanted a few times. Unfortunately for me, I fell in love with my wife the instant I laid eyes on her more than 20 years ago, and that love has never wavered. Every time she entered a room during our marriage, the same lightning bolt that struck me all those years earlier struck me again. It will take me a long, painful time to get over her. Sadly, there is nothing I can do. I know I could never forgive myself for allowing her to do what she did to me, even though I could probably forgive her. The following several weeks will see the filing of the documents, and by late summer, we ought to be finished. No one upped or fought. Accepting that I will occasionally still get emotional is only one thing that helps me. In the beginning, I would try to resist the grief if I was thinking about her while I wasn't feeling well. The more I struggled, the deeper and longer lasting the sadness would be. The transitions go more smoothly if I just go through it and give myself a time limit. I believe the was an isolated incident that occurred when she was out of town. Her altered demeanor suggests that he is most likely not in the picture, as much as that shouldn't be taken as me attempting to minimize what happened, as it probably won't turn into an LTR. It is unethical to cheat. The children feel let down by her. She stays away from them since she is aware of this. I worry that their reconciliation would be impeded, even though I understand that it is her duty to mend the bond with our children. Call me a stupid or outdated, but I want my children to have close relationships with both of their parents. That is, regardless of our marital status. For my part, I'm making an effort to remain upbeat about everything, even the STBX. divorce occurs, and the couple down the street cannot always be the beneficiaries. I don't want to be bitter toward her, but our marriage is toast. This is your one chance at this life, don't let rage waste it. Admittedly, I have been that boiling pot of rage. It has taken me a while to grasp this, but the more angry I get about the issue, the worse it makes me feel. The more depressing the circumstances are, the less I want to be involved in this awful cycle. On the other hand, if I maintain my perspective, my life will continue. I can only attempt to present the marriage in a positive light. Furthermore, I've observed that my interactions with STBX are the friendlier ones. The less anxiety I feel about the whole thing, the better. The divorce will be difficult, but we've been trying to keep things as civil as we can. Before she returns, the process will start, and I believe we are both eager to go past this stage. Limbo. The thing that boggles my mind is that, despite knowing the right thing to do, my feelings continue to attempt and complicate the situation. I'm scared that if she suggests R, I'll be foolish enough to accept it. I must therefore move rapidly. I'll be honest, I've looked at sites that discuss getting over an affair. I just want to scream at the computer to give her another chance, not because I want or it makes me think about my own circumstances. Just so you know, I used to talk to my STBX about infidelity. It was the worst thing ever, in her opinion. I used to make the remark, hey, mammals aren't monogamous. These days, that joke isn't as hilarious. She and I will have to deal with each other over the STBX till the final child goes out. I therefore wish to get along well with her, not because I'm trying to win her over or because I want her back. That's just the way I am. I don't want to satisfy people, I'm a people person. There are witnesses to that waiting in line around the block. She fervently insists that I never heard her having an affair, that I was the only man she ever loved, and that she wished to get old and insane with me. Unless she was telling me something different, she claimed, the marriage was gone. Now that I knew what had happened, I was unable to ignore it. In my opinion, she might be insane. Is there anything to make her feel better if she didn't cheat? Narrative 2. To make sure I'm not going crazy, I would really appreciate some input. I unintentionally discovered some offensive text messages on my wife's phone 8 weeks ago. She vowed to stop texting this guy, but I was incredibly upset and begged her to stop since all he wants to do is get into your pants. There was a lot of covert texting going on over several weeks. Everything had passwords now where none had before. Every time she went to the gym, she was very conscious of how she looked and what she was wearing, where she had this guy's meeting. I had my doubts, but I trusted her nonetheless, as I had done for the previous 12 years. When I entered her office last week, I saw that the same individual had sent another text. I panicked out, packed my stuff, and drove off to a hotel for 2 days. Maybe, in hindsight, I made a mistake. She went away for 2 days and then refused to sleep in the same bed when I returned. She claimed that my furious departure scared the living hell out of her. I told her where I was staying the night and that I would need some time to calm down. I asked her in a letter to finally put an end to this ayah. I begged her, told her how much I loved her, and expressed my disbelief and sense of betrayal. There is no cause for me to suspect a pa. However, it was undoubtedly not going to a horrible place. She gave me a complete bombshell 2 days later and requested that we part ways. Said I was being overbearing and produced an 8-page list of complaints about various things from the past 5 years in our marriage, some of which were valid and some of which were completely ludicrous. I begged her one more not to depart because most separations result in divorce. She maintains that she doesn't want a divorce and that she needs her privacy. I find it quite coincidence that the separation request was made at this particular time. She obviously loves this person's EIA more than our marriage. I believe she's currently thinking erratically and suffering from delusions. I was taken aback and taken aback. For 2 days my world fell apart. I felt like a piece of me had vanished. In my search for information, I stumbled with this board. I began practicing the 180 after reading about it. It was one of the toughest things I had ever done, but I persevered since I was not making any progress in my attempts to confess and plead my love. Maybe, I told her today, she was correct. Given that she is refusing to cease the come open about what happened, and sit down with Amp, perhaps we should part ways. She appeared to be trembling tonight and was unsure of what to do. Tonight, she packed up the pets and sobbed as she left the house to spend the night at a friend's. Seeing her go hurt me. I told her this is what you wanted even though I really wanted to give her a hug and encourage her to remain. Space, exercise caution when making wishes. If you need assistance, give me a call. Did I change the locks? She questioned. If she was prepared to come clean and work on reconciliation and the concerns she brought up, I told her I was here to help in any way I could. And the most valuable person I have known for the past 12 years went out the door. I feel awful being alone right now. I'm hoping this goes through. Though I do think better of her, I also adore her. I genuinely believe she is going through a brief period of craziness and making a string of poor choices. I hope that she will eventually wake up and return, but in the meantime, I'm ready to move on and stop being anyone's doormat. Please let me know if what I done was correct. I do remember telling her that I was going camping and fishing without her for a few days, and that the 180 seemed to be having a very noticeable immediate impact. She also appeared surprised and disappointed that she had not been invited. I also divided our money that day. I will no longer be held responsible for any financial problems when I was the only one who had to make all of the payments. In other words, after a few days, a lot of new information hit her. No more shared financial accounts. We now divide up all shared expenses 50/50, and with the remaining funds, each of us can spend them any way they like. Should have taken care of it years ago because there was always a bone of contention anytime money was tight. Not anymore. I set a firm limit, stating that you are now allowed to earn as much or as little as you like each month as long as you pay your half of our shared expenses. I'm going to buy a mountain bike today and get back into riding shape ASAP. There were 2 legitimate complaints that I ignored for years. I've been married for 12 years and I've never had any cause to question her at all. I did that, and it's true that she raised some important points. Working excessive hours, having little hobbies outside of work. However, none of them would be close to being separated. I'm determined to change the things that were discussed because some of them had to happen regardless of what happened. Much as I hate to say it, love drives people insane. Even though I don't believe anything has physically happened yet, when she leaves and takes the dogs, we are undoubtedly in danger. I've been married for 12 years and I've never had any cause to question her at all. I did that, and while she made some good points, such as working too many hours and not having many hobbies outside of work, none of them came close to qualifying as a separation. I'm determined to change the things that were discussed because some of them had to happen regardless of what happened. Much as I hate to say it, love drives people insane. Even though I don't believe anything has physically happened yet, when she leaves and takes the dogs, we are undoubtedly in danger. The ironic thing is that I didn't want to stay in the house by myself. I left for 2 weeks ago. Thus, I've been having a great time trying new things with different folks. Perhaps this breakup is actually a good thing. Based on what I've been reading, I'm confident that we share equal responsibility for a lot of the issues and animosity that have been allowed to fester over the years. Breakup dynasties. All of these are the typical indicators of a midlife crisis, and handling it as such at this time. This week, I did discover one small white lie. She informed me that she was returning to her mother's house permanently. However, a quick call to her mother revealed that she will have a return ticket in a week. She then boarded the feline. When a cat is not coming back, who boards them? So perhaps, after 6 weeks, something good will occur after all. If not, though, I'm prepared to move on and don't feel bad about asking for a formal divorce. We are now in the 4th week of our separation. I felt that taking her away from the other person should have happened sooner, so she flew back home, 5 states away, to remain with her mom. As luck would have it, her mother gave me a call today and expressed her disapproval of her behavior. I've always liked her, and when she gets home, I'll try to reason with her. She is 41 years old, seems like 22 years. She stated that she would return home and look for housing after spending 3 to 4 weeks there. Which, although heartbreaking to hear, I've read enough about emotional affairs and midlife crises now that I know she's not acting rationally at this time. Everything is a passionate rush. Up until now, in our 12 years of marriage, she has consistently shown herself to be devoted, truthful, and reliable. Our marriage shouldn't terminate because of this, in my opinion. I think we should try to save our marriage, provided she expresses regret for her conduct and agrees to terms for a new union. When all is said and done, perhaps ours will be stronger, maybe not. However, we ought to give it a shot. I now intend to intensify the pressure to never speak to this dude again and inform all the family members this week what actually happened, not just her version of events. I don't think the healing process can begin until he is no longer involved. Nothing can reverse the damage she caused. To be fair, though, everyone makes mistakes in life, sometimes very huge ones. But forgiveness need to follow genuine regret and a commitment to make amends. Over the course of the 4 to 6 week midlife crisis, I don't want to discard my 12 years of marriage and all the wonderful experiences we shared. I'm prepared to move on if she decides to go. Otherwise, I'm prepared to work on our partnership. For the past 8 weeks, everything about her behavior has been completely out of character. She has always done my laundry, but recently she quit doing it. She is a neat freak. She began purchasing stylish new clothing. She said it took her an hour to get ready for their meeting at the gym. She began working out for 20 to 30 hours a week, and naturally, Liam was there frequently. I'm not a comedy fan, therefore she wanted to go to the movies with him by himself. Absolutely not, I responded, putting down my foot. I just refused to believe it even though there were all the warning signs. I have always trusted my wife. Up until the past 8 weeks, she has never once given me any cause to doubt my faith. The way that people view marriage as disposable disgusts me so much. I kept my word to my spouse, even though she battled anorexia for years, spent years in depression, and repeatedly wished to pursue a new job. Now, I just can't help but feel so abused. I'm making an effort to not be resentful, angry, or bitter since such emotions are bad for the soul. But when I get up in the mornings like way, it's difficult to maintain the 180. After all these years, she has always been such a delicate person emotionally, and now someone has taken advantage of that and given her all the information she could possibly desire. And this is the outcome. We will sign a separation agreement next week, but it will only be a formality leading up to the impending divorce. I've made the decision that I don't want to deal with the possibility of someone abandoning me at an unspecified future date. I can do better, I'm 42, and I say it for the woman I once loved more than life itself, with deep anguish in my heart. However, the criticism is valid. She is not the same woman I married. This guy is cold, calculating, and nasty. The person I knew is long dead. Resentful and indifferent to me, my emotions, or our union. I had a terrible, horrible feeling about how everything was going to turn out. I am aware of my wife's extreme emotional fragility. She will eventually understand what terrible decisions she made when she returns home to an empty house after I have gone out of state, perhaps as early as next month. The harm she brought to the one person who cherished her above all else. There will be an onset of depression and negative outcomes. I really hope I'm mistaken. Though I know her better than anyone, I have a bad feeling in my stomach that the anguish she endures will be too much for her to bear. I pray that I am. She won't be able to handle it if it's even close to the suffering I am experiencing. Update: since she left about a month ago, I've made an effort to avoid spending even a single day in that empty house because I can't handle the grief. She sent me an email today informing me that, if she returns, it will be for another month or longer. Additionally, she will undoubtedly be visiting another location upon her return in order to continue seeing me on. I apologize, but I just can't handle this any longer and I won't stay in the city to watch her leave permanently. I'm going to lease an apartment in Kiev, pack up everything, and leave the house vacant for her to return to. I meet with a divorce lawyer to begin looking and making plans whenever she decides to come home tomorrow. After that, I meet with our MC one final time to say, nice try, but she's long gone. Even having to research common property and separate property rules online makes me nauseous. I never wanted to know about this, much less have to cope with it. I'm so ill to my stomach that I have to think of a legal defense against my wife. Update: she has been absent for more than 6 weeks. She stated she hasn't looked back and doesn't have any intentions to return. Looking back, she had already mentally checked out well before D-Day. Next week, we sign the official separation papers, and that will be the end of it. After all of this, I have no desire to make amends. With her new toy boy, who is unemployed, I wished her luck. Sorry, wanted to throw it in. He still resides with his parents and has money. A few weeks later, I find a new place, and my life starts over. I don't intend to make amends. Furthermore, divorce and legal separation are nearly synonymous in our state. Though merely a formality, divorce will inevitably occur in a few months. After 12 years of marriage, it's not easy to end things, but it's time to go on. There is no lack of good ladies in the world. I'm considering writing a thank you note to the other man. I wish you well, dear man. My response: what are your thoughts on these stories thus far, guys? This guy recognizes his own worth, so I think he'll be alright. If you haven't already, subscribe, and I'll go